Hello, I'm Brian Tracy, and today I want to talk to you about some bad habits that are destroying your productivity. Self-discipline is a great time saver. It's the ability to make yourself work on only the things that are most important to you. Productivity is an all-important ingredient in the recipe for success. Unfortunately, far too many people destroy their own productivity each day with bad habits that could be avoided. If you are ready to start being a more productive and successful person, be sure to avoid these 7 productivity-destroying habits. The first bad habit that's destroying your productivity is not planning your day. In the same way that it's hard to build a house without a blueprint, it's hard to have a productive day if you don't plan your day out in full. Planning out each day can be a great motivator, enabling you to focus in on the task that you need to accomplish each day. Failing to plan out your day, meanwhile, creates a vacuum that you are much more likely to fill with distractions and time-wasting activities than you are with productive tasks. If you would like to improve your productivity right away, purchase a planner and start writing down what you want to accomplish each day. You may be surprised to see just how far planning out each day can actually take you. I use a yellow pad, a notepad, and I write out all my goals every day before I begin, and it's made all the difference for me, and it will for you. The second bad habit is not having self-discipline. One of the most important traits that almost all successful people have in common is self-discipline. Without self-discipline, it's almost impossible to accomplish anything beyond the bare minimum that is required of you. While a lack of self-discipline can be hard to overcome, it is something that anyone can move past with enough effort. If you continually force yourself to go the extra mile, your self-discipline will steadily improve over time, and your productivity will certainly improve with it as well. Third, sleeping in too often or too late. The early morning hours are the most important hours of the day. These are the hours when the majority of people will be at their most productive. If you sleep in, though, you are missing out on these all-important hours entirely. By waking up an hour or two earlier, you can get a lot accomplished while the rest of the world is still sleeping. Taking advantage of these available hours, these golden hours, is one of the easiest ways to boost your productivity. Fourth, wasting time online. The internet has been an amazing invention for mankind for a wide range of reasons. However, the internet is also a major source of distraction and one of the primary reasons that people are far less productive than they used to be. When an infinite supply of entertainment and distraction is always at your fingertips, your productivity is bound to suffer. To avoid this, try putting your phone and other devices away while you are working on important tasks. Keep them in another room if you are able to do so in order to keep the online world from being an ever-present distraction. The best rule of all is leave things off. Use the internet to check on your messages and then turn it off for an extended period of time. The fifth bad habit is you're not completing the tasks that matter most to you first. Mark Twain said, if you start each morning by eating a live frog, you can rest comfortably in the knowledge of knowing that it's probably the worst thing that's going to happen to you all day long. In other words, if you start each day by completing your most dreaded task rather than putting it off, you can begin each day with a major sense of accomplishment and avoid the dread that goes along with putting off a major task. The sixth thing that holds you back is the habit of complaining. Complaining and procrastination go hand in hand. The more you complain about a task, the more likely you are to put it off. Likewise, putting a task off only makes it worse and gives you all the more to complain about. It's a vicious cycle and one that is absolutely destructive to your productivity. Keeping a positive mindset and avoiding complaining is an essential key to success. After all, complaining about a task never once made a task complete itself, and it very often leads to a complete loss of productivity. Seventh, you let the fear of failure stop you from success. The quickest way to guarantee failure is to never try. Like the old adage says, you can't let go of the fear of striking out keep you from stepping up to bat. Unfortunately, fear of failure is a very real thing, and it keeps far too many people from ever pursuing their dreams. Fear of failure, though, isn't a rational fear, and failure isn't something that deserves to be feared. Even the most successful people in the world had to fail multiple times before they finally succeeded. If you have the right mindset, failure won't stop you from reaching your goals. A fear of failure, on the other hand, will stop you every single time. Now, I'd love to hear from you, so my question today to you is, what bad habit is keeping you from success?
Look, human beings, we can't help ourselves but compare ourselves to others. And comparison is the deadliest thing we can do to ourselves, because we will always come up short. All it does is exaggerate all of our insecurities. It's okay to enjoy other people's success, but you let them live their lives and you live your life. Oh, and by the way, they're curating their social media. That's not really their life. And so you're making decisions based on how you feel, based on their curated things. I know, I've talked to so many millennials. I know somebody who's out of work, really depressed, and yet she goes and does all these things so she has the appearance of this amazing, successful life. And so you imagine, now, she may be making those decisions based on what her friends, who knows what sort of weird, twisted, exaggerated, circle of depression this is forming. Mm-hmm. So go back to the rules of the infinite game. Your friends are there to admire. Your friends are there to say, God, I'm so happy for them. What are they doing that I can learn from? I'll give you an example. So we can all fall into this trap. So, in my business, authors and speakers and folks like us, we're all comparing ourselves to each other, and sometimes it can get silly and competitive. And there was, sometimes I go on Amazon and check the rankings of my books to see that I still have a job. And now and then there was this one author who I hated for no reason. He's very smart. His work's incredibly good. He's incredibly well respected. I respect him, but I hate him. And I would check the rankings of his books. And when I was ahead, I'd be like, and when he was ahead, I was like, right? It would drive me crazy. I had this weird abstract competition. Mm-hmm. Same thing, right? Social media happened to be Amazon rankings.
Right.
And I would check in all the time. I would always check in, mine, his, nobody else, just mine, his. Anyway, we were, I was at an event and we were interviewed together on the same stage. Mm-hmm. And the interviewer decided to let us introduce each other. So I went first. I had to introduce him. And this is what I said. I looked at him and I said, you make me very insecure. I said, because all of your strengths are all of my weaknesses. And every time I see you do well, it just reminds me what I'm bad at. That's how I opened up. He turned to me and he said, funny, I feel the same way about you. Now we love each other. Because I realized that he's really good at what I'm bad at. So by me getting to know him and really learning to love him, I'm realizing I'm getting better at those things. And I'm taking more pride in the things that I'm good at rather than thinking I have to be good at everything he's good at. Right? So that it's healthy to grow our own strengths and rather than be intimidated by the strengths of others.
I mean, we like to think we're rational, but we're not. The part of the brain that controls behavior doesn't control rational analytical thought. Rational analytical thought, which is controlled by the neocortex, is not responsible for our decision making or behavior. And that's kind of interesting. We can rationalize things, we can think through things, but at the end of the day, everybody here has had a gut feeling about something. Despite all the advice that we get and all the data that we may get, it just doesn't feel right. There's no part of your stomach that's telling you that. That is a brain function, but it's a nonverbal part of the brain. the rational part of our brains, our conscious brains, have access to the equivalent of about 2 feet of information around us. That's when we access our expertise, that's when we weigh the pros and cons, it's when we think through the problem, it's what we do in the brainstorming session. Our nonverbal subconscious brains have access to the equivalent of 11 acres of information around us. Every movie we've seen, every book we've read, every conversation we've had gets stored somewhere, but we can't necessarily recall it or think about it when we want it. We can't access that information when we want it. So we've all had the experience where you're in the shower, you go for a run, you're lying in bed, and you have an idea. Whatever question was raised or problem was raised in the brainstorming session that you didn't come up with the answer in the brainstorming session, it happens 4, 5, 6, 7 days later when you aren't thinking about it. Your brain won't ruminate about questions that weren't asked or problems you don't have. And so the value of the brainstorming sessions and the conversations and the expertise conversations is to raise the question, to raise the problem, and then to give it some time to allow that subconscious part of our brain to ruminate rather than think is important. That goes back to the cell phone thing again, which is when we're so connected all the time, when we're on our phones from, when we walk out of this room to walk to the subway, to walk to a meal, like when we're constantly connected, we're actually not allowing that time for our minds to wander. We're not allowing for that time for our subconscious brains to solve problems for us. And it makes us, I don't want to say dumber, but it does reduce the quality of the ideas and the solutions that we can have in our lives and for the work that we do. It's very important to just create space in which our minds can just do whatever they do. If you have ideas in the shower, take a longer shower. If you have ideas when you go for a walk, go for longer walks, go for walks. Leave your phone at home, just go for a walk. These moments are essential. One of the challenges is it's not predictable as to when or which walk or which shower will produce the idea. So unfortunately, you have to just keep doing it. It's like exercise. You just have to keep doing it. It's a lifestyle. So yeah, we are not as rational as we like to think we are. If we were, we wouldn't make 90% of the decisions we make, but we do.